Intuitive viewers, welcome. I'm here with someone you recognize, I think. I'm here with Dave Johnson from Moonride. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Kim. Hi, viewers.
Hello. So we've been trying to get together for a while now,
Me
right?
too.
Our schedules, the time difference, COVID, everything kind of you have to get all our ducks in a row to do this, but I'm so happy to be finally talking to you today.
So great to talk to you, Kim. I always enjoy it so much.
Well, thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about um the changes that we've made and the changes and that we've everybody evolves spiritually. Everybody does all the time, and that includes us. And so I kind of wanted just to start this conversation with talking about teaching, because just like me, you kind of moved into the area of teaching others to do what you do. So first of all, talk about what you do and
Mhm.
what that is, what quantum healing is, and then how you made the change and why you made the change to teach it rather than just do it. Yeah, how did you decide that?
Okay. So, did you want me to start all the way back with I'll just go ahead and start with the beginning. All right. So, I started channeling. And let me tell you, when I started channeling, I had no idea really how it was going to play out. When I started channeling actually on YouTube, I kept getting really good indicators. And this was just, things just sort of showed up in the universe to say, hey, keep going. I was extremely fortunate to have Lena Rodriguez completely give me the bump up. I have to tell you guys, like, I owe everything to Lena Rodriguez. I will forever be her in her debt. She's a terrific person. And just as you, just the same person that you see on YouTube, smart and funny, and great to work with. So as I was doing this over time, I would just be, people call up and they need to, have questions, serious questions that they wanted to know about, should I buy or sell the house, or, which lawyer should I get? The pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
People have very good reasons for wanting to know these things. And, some things really do, need to be, they want to have control over this just to, if nothing else, help their anxiety.
Right.
So I was doing this work, and oftentimes it would go beyond the question, as I'm sure you've experienced.
Mhm.
It would be like, well, there's a man with a hat here and he's juggling. And they'll be like, oh, that's Uncle Billy. And I'm like, oh, well, Uncle Billy is telling you that, have confidence, move forward. And they would just get a message from that person kind of beyond even what they were at. And we would wind up talking about much, much more than we originally intended.
Right.
And it would, again, as you know, like, be a bit broader than just the problem.
Mhm.
It would be like, why are you having that problem in your life? Or, what's this teaching you? Or is this a sequence of problems that actually has a more origin? I'm sure you know how that works. And
Yeah.
as I got further and further along, one day, and you'll often very much click with your clients, it's not just a reading, there's just more going on there. One day I was just told in the moment, take this person through this doorway. It had more bells and whistles to it, but take them through this doorway
Mhm.
and then get them to channel. And the people were, game. So we went ahead and they met their guide, and their guide gave them the answer to their questions. So they didn't need me to answer their questions because their guide did. And there's a process of going through that doorway safely.
Uh-huh.
And they would come back and I would say, look, you don't necessarily need to call me again. Okay. You should start doing this on your own. You should
Right.
start using this work. Again, do it safely, but
Right.
you should start talking to them on your own. And, you have the capability of doing this. Just like me, I didn't think I was going to be any good at it, but I was just testing the waters. But, you really are. And I know, like literally every single person who I talk to has that ability. It might take a few sessions, maybe there's some adjustments, but everybody has it. So, this just started happening consistently, where my consultations became just teaching people how to channel. And I was just so excited about it. And, I was in the Peace Corps. And one thing about the Peace Corps we used to say is, it's better to teach somebody how to fish than to give them a fish.
Right.
Right. Because you teach them how to fish, they can take care of themselves. So I'm like, well, this makes great sense. And so it just became a thing where I was like, why don't I set this up as a separate offering? And that's how that evolved. One thing I'm sure, as you noted, is when you're teaching somebody to channel, you're both channeling.
Right.
Right. So you're kind of getting the directions like how to help that person, and they're getting the messages from the universe. Like, wow, well, that is quantum healing. In quantum healing, you are putting somebody, a few minutes into, some people would think of it as a trance, but that sounds so mysterious. It's really a little bit more like, just like the work that we do, just like close your eyes. What are you seeing? And people will be like, oh my gosh, Dave, I'm on a boat and it's like 1750 and I'm the captain. And they'll literally see their shoes. They'll see the clothes they're wearing. My clients will be like, Dave, I could tell you the fineness of the linen I'm wearing.
Oh
I
my
can
God.
tell you that I'm upper middle class, not rich. Like, I get these incredible, like almost historic details about it. And the details tend not to be, like, who cares about the linen? But that turned out to be really significant. They're just these little details. And so what was great about that is I somehow know what question to ask when I'm doing that kind of work. I know. Now, I should tell you, you're not allowed to do quantum healing online. Dolores Cannon did not allow that because she was afraid, she was back in the Skype days. She was afraid that people would get disconnected and they'd be stuck in a trance somewhere.
Oh gosh.
This is why I've taken another course, which is called BQH, which does allow you to do it, and it's a bit more open. So that is one that you can do online, but the one that I would do on home would pretty much be quantum healing. So what's really interesting about it is virtually every single person, when you just do a few things, getting them to the visual part of their brain, you just say things like, see a red bird. Okay, what kind of bird is it? And they'll be able to describe it. And it just gets them to the visual side.
Right.
And once they get there, you'll be like, go on a cloud and you'll drop, and people will sometimes drop into their own lifetime. They need to revisit things about their lifetime. And sometimes it's just like happy moment, happy moment, happy moment. Like, oh, my life is pretty cool. Often it is going back to these lifetimes where there's trauma, not always, but a terrible death. Or, you'll go and you'll have like 10 questions. Like, one of my questions is, I had an arm injury, kayaking many years ago, and I had, something like cysts in my kneecap. So you'll have these 5-10 questions and they'll be answered. So the shoulder, there's a lady called Alba Weinman. You can watch her YouTube videos too. And I was fortunate enough to have a session with her. In this particular one, I was on a boat with like a Captain Cook type character, and I was sent up the river on an island to find the water. And the native people were not too happy about this, okay? Especially since I ran and I hid in their sacred space.
Oh gosh.
So I'm in the boat and I'm rowing and I go over the falls, and boom, this is the shoulder I hit.
Oh my gosh.
So once she's like, go to the pain, feel that pain for a moment. And now we'll, work on that. And it went away, so I no longer have this physical problem anymore. And I noticed that everybody gets some kind of relief. Sometimes people, the cancer is not necessarily cured. Some people believe it is cured. But I tell you, I've had people call me up and say, Dave, I've never had this medical problem again. Like, I've been born with a disease and it's gone. And there's always a lesson in that lifetime. I wasn't really paying attention when I was on that ship. I could have, they'll go to moments of your life and she'll go like 1, 2, 3, boom, where are you? And in this lifetime, this sailor, and I didn't really want to be a sailor. And like 12 years old, they sent me off on a ship. But there's a point where I meet a woman and I fall in love with her, and she's in love with me. And she says, Dave, I didn't say Dave. She says my name at the time. She says, I can't really be with someone that's going to leave on a boat every couple of years. I can't be in a relationship where I don't see you for who knows how long. And instead of being with that person and facing it and going, all right, I'm going to change my job, I'll do anything, I'll find a way to be together with you, I do that kind of this is the job I know, and I get back on the boat. So there were 3 lifetimes, but all of them suggested you have to take control of your life. Like, you are responsible for your choices in your life. Sometimes you have terrible choices, right? In one of the lifetimes, it was really sad. It was literally the Nazis broke in the door, and I'm a child, and I'm there with my mom.
Oh, wow.
And it's absolutely horrible. I mean, it's in a way, when you're viewing it, it's not as horrible as it sounds, because you're actually just viewing it.
Right.
But, the noise, the sound, the barking of the dogs, it's just horrific. And as we're going to die, my mom turns to me and she looks at me and she says, don't look at them. We're going to get shot. Look at me. I want you to look at me. And I want you to think about your Christmas presents. We're not Jewish. We just, gone run afoul of the Nazis.
Right.
There's no choice in that moment, or there are choices in that moment. They're not good. The only thing that my mom could do was say, focus on me. Your pain won't be so bad.
Right.
And there's so much to get out of there, good and evil. At some point, I actually feel sorry for the Nazis, because they have become like animals. And it's just like, hey, I'm going to my next lifetime with a pretty clean slate. You guys are going to have this on your, it's also, why is there good and evil? It's like, here's this evil, but the evil opened that window for my mom to be a real hero, and to do something incredibly beautiful in that last moment. So there's just it goes on for months where you'll be making these connections and being like, no wonder I'm so righteous, I'm still wanting to kick the Nazi in the knee, I mean, it's like, that's why I get so worked up sometimes, maybe I could chill out a little bit. And there's a little bit of going, well, we have to confront evil, but at the same time understand that those people and what are they doing, it's delusion. They're living in a delusion. And in a way, this doesn't stop us from confronting it. But in a way, those characters are, perhaps suffering from some horrible childhood, or, actually the worst thing that I think could happen to a human, which is that they lose empathy.
All right. Well,
so
yeah, we've seen that.
So much good work. There's just so much of the undoing of the damages. And I tell you, I feel fantastic. Like, I have no more medical issues whatsoever. Psychologically, I feel much freer. And all of these things always wind up giving me more empathy for people. I'm still going to fight, but more empathy for the victim, more empathy for even the attacker. It's quite amazing.
Well, Dave, I have to ask you, so can quantum healing answer questions such as, why do I feel a certain affinity for a certain period of time in history? Why am I repelled by a certain time in history? I remember my sister, whenever we would see things about the Holocaust, she would become physically ill. She'd have to leave the room and become physically ill. And I think now, of course, she was probably there, or she was probably played some role, and it was triggered, now I think that at the time I didn't know, but so can it answer some of those kinds of questions?
Absolutely. So I think I can speak about this. I have a friend who I did this work with, and she had some, financial difficulties, and they kind of plagued her through her life. And this answered the question. There was a lifetime where she did get some money, and it led to disaster. So always, she's actually kind of maybe got a fear of having money, like almost self-destructing. Really, I had one client, she's like, Dave, I get terrified when I see somebody in a wheelchair. and I don't know what it is, but I get really upset. Well, she had been a dancer in New York and suffered from a car accident in, 50 years ago, and had wound up in a wheelchair for the rest of her life.
Oh,
And
no.
always there's these messages.
Uh-huh.
The message for her was, she was using her body as a dancer, but it was just like a vehicle. She wasn't really at one with her own body. She wasn't respecting her own body. It was just a
Right.
vehicle. And so, for me, it's, you're never judged in the end, because you'll always go from that lifetime and then you'll go to kind of a review.
Right.
So you'll never have somebody going, you were wrong. It's not like,
Right.
God was throne. It's always like, how do you think you did? And even we will be the most critical judges of our lives.
Right.
We will
Right.
absolutely be critical. So in, that particular lifetime where I was the sailor, they were like, what'd you do wrong? And I was like, I didn't follow love. I didn't, I didn't trust myself. I didn't believe that I could have a new job and a new career. I didn't believe that. I had, been at war with the French and I hated them. Right. And there was a certain moment where I'm looking at the judgment and the review going, they were just people just like me. They were in this war just like me. They didn't necessarily choose to be part of the French Navy. So there was a little bit of it. Just the lessons are so interesting at the end. They
Right.
make you very self-aware.
It's so interesting that when you talk about money, because so often, particularly when I did email readings, I felt like it was more trance-like when I did email readings, because they're not there to kind of disrupt the flow, which is fine. They ask questions,
Right.
but it does kind of disrupt the flow sometimes. And so often with people with money issues, it would always go back to a past life. I had a couple that they had taken a vow of poverty in other lifetimes, and they were keeping the vow or keeping the vow of
Yeah.
poverty, that kind of thing. Just little things that you don't think that would make a difference in another lifetime, but you kind of you learn the lesson. You are so bound and determined to learn the lesson, or to keep that lesson with you, that it can mess you up sometimes, or
Um,
kind of just not quite come out right when in this lifetime. So you need to kind of sort it out. Does that make sense?
right.
Is that what you
Absolutely.
mean?
And
Yeah.
it's really funny that you mentioned that, because that's exactly one of the things that Dolores Cannon, who's sort of the founder of quantum healing, says.
Right.
People have taken a vow of celibacy. So they always have problems in the relationships. And they took it, 500 years ago when they were a nun, right? And you have to go in and
Right.
say, let's cut that cord. You don't need to be a nun this
Right.
lifetime. And you don't need to be poor. That's a very common one. I mean, we
Mhm.
all have issues, especially in spiritual work, like money. It's like, oh, it's kind of dirty. I don't want to do it for money. Well,
Yeah.
like, we live in the world, we have to have money. And vows of poverty. That's just absolutely textbook stuff. It's totally intriguing. And this is another thing that I think you will find really interesting if you research this. Many of the things that you're already doing, you'll look at there and there it is in her book. So I was shocked when I started watching her. It's like, oh my God, a pyramid. I use that all the time. Like, here it is in the book. And that's part of the program. Another one is a Merkaba. There's a pyramid with another pyramid. I was sitting in a session with Alba Weinman, and she was doing a group session, and she's just like, oh yeah, this is called the Merkaba. And I'm like, wait a minute, how long have you been working with that? She's like, oh, for years. And I was like, that came to me in a dream 6 months
Oh
ago,
my
and I've been
gosh.
using it ever since. So one thing anybody who's doing spiritual work will find are these great parallels.
Mm.
And, you think of the great service that you're doing with them is like, hey, let's break that chain. You don't have to be poor in this lifetime. Let's break
Right.
that chain. You don't have to be celibate in this lifetime.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think it is that kind of it's just that realization. Well, when I think of it, I mean, I can understand those kinds of things, life situations changing. I can understand making emotional breakthroughs in quantum healing. What I don't understand is how do physical things follow you in, because you think if you change your body, the
You
physical
get a
things are
new,
gone,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Does it
All I
have to do with emotional, like, I don't know, something sticking? So it
Yeah.
just is there physically still? Or it was so traumatic, you know?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm not entirely sure I have an answer to why that works. But there, it seems to me like we come here for experience.
Hmm.
And in a way, we could look at everything as just experience, right? And if you look at this experience, you have these lifetimes which you're learning from and you're experiencing from. But you do, I think, on an emotional body level, your soul does carry the trauma. It does
Hmm.
carry some traumatic events. It also carries the positives,
Right.
right? So, I believe that, yeah, somehow it is manifesting in your body. Dolores Cannon believed that any medical problem was a message from spirit about
Right.
something that hasn't been completed, right? You haven't quite figured it out. So, in a way, we might even consider these problems as motivators to solve them. And
Right.
insofar as I'm motivated, then that's why I checked out quantum healing. That's why it was so interesting to me. But
Right.
yeah, I think somehow your soul does carry some of the, feelings
Right.
and from one lifetime to the next. That's just
Yeah.
my guess.
Yeah.
But
And then
they're
when you
really
merge with the body, it maybe
still there.
manifests physically. Yeah.
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 And often it's from this lifetime, so
Right.
sometimes there are things in this lifetime. Some people I've taken to this, they only see this lifetime and they
Hmm.
just forgot about something or they repressed something.
Right.
And sometimes like not necessarily like something that be like, oh, the Holocaust, some that kind of level of trauma. Sometimes it's just that, that moment that somebody passed away and unexpectedly and it broke your heart. Sometimes it's
Exactly.
just that that harsh word you got from the school teacher that embarrassed you. It's like very subtle things
Right.
may really be bothering you. And they might be bothering you so much that it's like, I can't lift my arm this way. That particular accident that I had, a lot of things were going on for me.
Right.
One of them was I was 40 pretending I was 20. And I'm like, I'm going to kayak despite that. One of them was, not looking at the things in my life that were causing me problems. And I was just going to exercise them away,
Right.
and there's
Interesting.
just so much to mine there. It's often people in my life now will be people from that lifetime. And if I go in there and I ask questions about anybody in my lifetime, I will go to the place and I will go, oh, yeah, my brother was my dad. And, we kind of have the same relationship. My, older brother in one lifetime, he goes a totally different path from me. And we were totally different, all growing up in our lives, absolutely the opposite person. But, we over time had like really come together to respect our choice and see that it was well intentioned. There
Hmm.
was a Native American lifetime where I was like, okay, I'm going to try to work with white people and I'm going to
Hmm.
try to be an ambassador. And he's like, to heck with that. I am a warrior. Right.
Right.
So very different approaches. Both of us neither of us came to a good end, but we could respect our intent.
Right.
And
Right.
so you'll find that people, best friends, they recycle lifetime after lifetime. They're just your partner or your grandfather. It's like a million things come together in these
Right.
really quite perfect metaphors. And you'll notice those after you do it, those relationships will get better.
Right.
So, you'll be like, wow, I see where my siblings coming from in that regard. Or I remember that time when he and I got in an argument. I see now what he was really talking about. I should just move on from that and
Right.
respect the fact that we disagree. There's so much in there.
The more that you talk about, especially what they get out of it, the more it reminds me of therapy. It's just a deep, deep, deep um, soul kind of
Uh,
therapy to kind of just give you answers so that you aren't caught in a a wheel of karma, or you're not caught in the
Mhm.
same problems that you were, or you can't finally fix the thing that you came here to fix.
Right.
um, it's
Right.
it's really amazing.
It is
It's such a
amazing.
breakthrough, I think, in
Absolutely.
helping people with problems that they haven't been able to get, you know, fixed any other way. It's like that it somehow breaks through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really true. Yeah, it is that breakthrough thing. And I believe that it was delivered to Dolores Cannon at this time for the reason that the planet Earth is in trouble.
Right.
Like,
Right.
spirit doesn't, we all have free will. So they don't want to just fix it for us,
Right.
and fix our political system, but they can send us help.
Right.
They can send us better choices.
Tools. Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah, for
I
sure.
truly
And
believe.
I feel that way. I feel like we're we're teetering on the edge of something right now. Um, we're all choosing. We're all choosing right now where we land, where we are, right? And
Mhm.
and you're right. I think it's a tool to make sure that we know, um, or if we're having trouble deciding, we're getting those answers in a lot of different ways, whether it's from readings, or from, learning how to get into our own abilities, or quantum healing. We have all of this access. We just didn't, um, we had it, but in such, it wasn't as mainstream, it wasn't as accepted, it
Mhm.
wasn't as, I think the internet has helped tremendously to get the
Mhm.
word out much more quickly. But you're right, I
Yes.
think it's all connected to this
Yes.
time. It's
Mhm.
crucial. It's crucial.
Yeah. And we can look at the internet and we can see so much damage that it's doing, right? And how it's harming people and dividing people. But we can also look at the internet and say, wow, I was trying to find a shaman 30 years ago,
Right.
and that first time that I could actually, oh my God, there's one like 2 blocks away, that we could only do that thanks to the internet. We could only be talking now because of the net. So
That's right. That's right.
good choices are being delivered.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were going to do like a little exercise if you want, and
Sure.
we're going to kind of teach each other something, because we're both kind of moving into teaching. So
Yeah.
tell me what you want to teach me, and me being everybody else too.
Sure.
Not
Sure.
just me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I just along those lines, I was going to say, everybody feel free to do this. I'm doing this with Kim,
Yeah.
but as you're sitting out there, I really welcome you to do what I am doing. And then you're going to do one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. So um, this is a good one because I think it's really brief, right? And I would just like ask everybody to, for a moment, think of something that really makes you angry. Think of something
Oh
that's just like
gosh.
upsetting. Yeah, and I know you're rolling your eyes. I mean, there's so
Okay.
many choices. But it could be something totally simple. It doesn't have to be political. It could be just like, oh, that annoying neighbor, anything that makes you angry. And
Okay.
just put that, there for a moment. Okay, here's the problem. So I'm going to think about something, right? And I don't want to share it right now because I don't want to put ideas in anybody's head. All right. Whatever makes you angry. But I'm going to think of something. All right. Now just like put that aside for a moment. Now I'm going to ask you to bring in a pyramid. And the pyramid, this pyramid of protection. And the pyramid of protection is extremely important whenever we do the work because weird things can get in, tricky spirits can
Mhm.
get in, we know what I mean. So in this pyramid, just put it over your head and just a normal pyramid, right? And now just put in things that look like love to you. You might think of the moment of, love between you and your children or children and you. You might think of kind people or kind things that have been done for you. You might think of really just kind souls, right? And just literally put that into your pyramid. Just put it all in there, like put in love. Now, Kim, other people may have different colors. It really isn't that important, but I am going to ask you, when you put love into that pyramid, does that have a particular color?
It's interesting because with each thing I was putting in, and I just noticed this when you said that, the pyramid was getting, because it started out as kind of a flat, like a brick gold, just like flat. It
Uh,
started to kind of glow and get an even brighter gold and a deeper gold, almost like it was made of real gold. But
mm,
with everything I put in, it was getting brighter, shinier, golder. But I didn't
mhm.
notice that until you just said that. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Now that's it's okay if your color isn't gold like Kim's. It's totally okay. It's your color. That's great. We just want you to notice it. Just notice how you can change the color, right? Now, take that pyramid and just lower it around you, and it should be from your head to under your feet. Just lower that around you, and this is going to be our pyramid of protection, right? I always like to add just another layer of protection, although you probably don't need this, but just one more layer of protection would be think of a person or more than one person who has passed from this lifetime who truly loved you. Doesn't need to be a perfect person. Nobody's perfect, but somebody who really loved you, right? And I'm going to think of some people myself. So I have a favorite aunt. Her name was Lissa. She always shows up. Um, my grandfather shows up, right? And neither of these people were perfect. Doesn't that's not the thing. The thing that's most important is that you knew them and that they loved you, right? And that they have passed from this lifetime, because we're talking about things that are outside this lifetime per se, right? Now, some people out there might say, Dave, nobody in my family was nice to me, and I feel really bad for you, except that if you really think about it, there was somebody. There was a school teacher, there was a therapist, there was your art therapist, there was a best friend who passed. There is always somebody who shed the light for you. And once you just picture that person, I'm starting with my aunt. I picture her. I'm going to welcome her into this pyramid with me, right? And I'm going to welcome my grandfather with this into this pyramid with me. The other thing is you can bring pets, right? Often people will see a favorite dog or cat or pet or horse even, and you can always expand your pyramid big enough to fit the horse, right? And you can bring them in with you. It's nice to note where they're standing in the pyramid. You will be in the middle. But, my aunt is on my right, my grandfather is on my left, right? This is the protection that I'm going to use before I go to the next step. And what we're going to do today is take a look at our anger. We're going to be friends with our anger, and we're going to work together with our anger. So rather than be in opposition, where anger just jumps out whenever it wants to, and then we repress it, we're actually just going to meet them on their own terms. And it's important to have this pyramid, just in case somebody's pretending to be my anger and they're not. Now, while we're here in our pyramid, I'm going to ask you, Kim, to picture your anger. And your anger could look like almost anything. It could look like a person or an animal or whatever. It's funny, but mine always looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, so yours, it can look cute, right? But you want to welcome that anger in. And when you welcome your anger in, and let me just ask you, Kim, what's your anger look like?
It looks like the anger emoji, but the one that is swearing, the one that has the thing over his mouth.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
angry, angry. That's what.
That makes sense. Right on. Okay. And
Yeah,
everybody's just going to be different, right?
right.
So here's our anger, and here they are. And, rather than have this contentious relationship, remember, we're protected in our pyramid. We're not going to become our anger. Like going to be like, hey, let's have it, sit down, we'll have a drink, and just be really friendly with them and be like, hey, well, what would you like to drink? And my anger is telling me, I want the most, strong martini you can possibly make me. Okay, here you go. And he also wants to smoke a big, fat, disgusting cigar. I'm like, well, okay, here we are. I'm not going to smell anything. So have a seat. And we want to recognize our anger. And we want you to say to your emoji, Look at all the great things that you do to help me. I mean, think about that angry emoji for you. It
Mhm,
motivates you probably to get on this show.
mhm,
It stops people when they're crossing the line with you. It makes you walk up and protect someone.
mhm.
Think about the wonderful things that your anger does. It raises red flags for you. It gives you that spidey sense that, oh, I don't really like that person. Your anger is your friend. It is really helpful in your life. And we need to stop rejecting him or her or it. We need to know that they exist. Now, obviously, we don't want them taking over, but let's go here and let's make a friend of them and
Mhm.
listen to them and say, hey, you're okay. There may be some situations where we meet the anger and we just ask them to, hey, could you just take a seat for a moment? I'll work this out. I'm not going to forget about you, but hey, just could you stand by? In this particular situation, I want us to join with our anger and say, how can we work together to go to that thing that made me angry that we started with? Right. And I'll confess, I did start with Trump. Trump makes me angry. So I tried to find other angry things, but he's the one that makes me the most angry. Here
Right.
I am with my anger. Well, it wouldn't really be helpful if I just rage all day or if I drive like a maniac or get in arguments with people all the time. That's not really, it's not solving anything, but I certainly don't want to reject it. I want to go talk to my anger and say, hey, what do you think I should do? Like, how could we work this out together so that I could actually express this anger in a really positive way? And now my anger is actually kind of going, well, thank you for including me. Thank you for, not rejecting me. Here's what my advice is. Why don't you, in regard to Donald Trump, you know, have conversations about it? Why don't you, in regard to the political situation, listen more? Why don't you stop judging? Right? Why don't you stop pretending that you've never done anything wrong yourself, because you have, and just go to those people who believe that particular thing and still hold forth in your opinion, but do it in the nicest way possible. My anger is telling me right now, hey, Dave, if you were even and calm with some of these people, maybe you wouldn't get into a fight with them, and maybe they would see you as an example. And if they saw you as an example, they might see your own empathy and maybe go back to the empathy that they have. Maybe, Dave, if you showed those people your empathy, even though you don't agree with them and even though you're angry, maybe you would work, you'd be able to work better with them, and they would see, hey, he has empathy for me. I could have empathy for another. So it's really important because our society tells us don't work with anger, or anger's bad, or put anger away. You should always be controlled. And, that just means your anger is going to jump out in these random moments. It doesn't want to
Right.
be repressed all the time. We don't want to just let our politicians do whatever they want. This is not the way. I mean,
Right.
we do want to speak to them, but how do we speak to them?
Right.
And maybe if we can ask you, just for an example, for our viewers, what was the thing that made you angry?
Well, we have a scandal in the United States right now that is Rudy Giuliani made an appearance on The Masked Singer. And people were outraged. And I guess two judges walked off. And this is not going to air until like next month, but it's all over
Hmm.
the news right now. And it made me so angry that they would try to just normalize him and kind of try to resurrect his likability in some way when
Right.
we're in the middle of this, maybe 20
Right.
years down the road, once he's out of jail or whatever, maybe then we can talk. But right now it's like we're right in the middle of this. What are they doing? So it just enraged me. So
Yeah.
I had my emoji. We, like you said, I just kind of talked to it, and my emoji said laugh. This is funny. This little thing that happened, this is funny.
Yeah.
He's dressed up like a giant little girl. Um, it's actually
It's
funny.
ridiculous.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can be outraged about other stuff, but this particular thing, you can laugh at it. So,
Right.
and it wasn't at all what I expected to, come away with. But then I thought it is funny. This thing, I don't really have to have that much anger and outrage about. It's
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah. In a way, he's made a fool out of himself.
Right.
So, this time we can enjoy the
You
anger
can
that's
laugh.
laughing at him. Right. And it's just so funny how that works. People really see anger in a particular way and repress it in a particular way because that's what we're
Right.
taught to do, because we see these expressions of anger. But, it can't, you have every right to be angry about this.
Mhm.
Who are these people who are networks that are trying to manipulate our government and potentially turn
Right.
it into a totalitarian society? You have every reason to be angry about
Right.
that. And if it didn't make you angry, you just let it happen. We would be living under a king right now.
Right.
So
Right.
I often like to think of it as just like almost like the two hands coming together,
Right.
right? So here's the situation. We're not going to ignore that situation. We are going to meet that situation, but we don't have to meet it when we're out of control,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I
And
think
that it's affecting us more than it is anything else. What
right,
we want it to do is kind of motivate us to do something, or even to pray, or to get a prayer circle together or whatever. It doesn't have to be marching in the streets necessarily, but
right.
it does motivate you. It can motivate you to move, um,
Mhm.
rather than just sitting with that anger and just letting it eat you up inside. And so I think that's such a good exercise to get you in touch with what is that what is it, what is it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to let it in, because it may
Mhm.
not be as negative as you think.
Mhm. Mhm. My mom experienced a lot of sexism, and she was so angry about this sexism that she raised three sons to cook, to sew, to know how to be totally not macho guys. And my brothers are both heterosexual, and they are really, really totally like, they're the kind of guy in the room who's like, hey, don't talk about women that way.
Right.
They are, regular guys in so many ways. But, my mom ate, I had to cook Monday, my brother cooked Tuesday, my other brother cooked Wednesday. There was a list, we were very organized. So she managed to transform this anger into something really positive.
And she affected change in
Mhm.
that's the thing. It's in her own way, in her own house, and
Yes.
how who it has probably spilled out in a million ways with the three of you over time. You've probably affected so many other people. That's a big thing too, I think, is people think their gesture has to be giant, but no, it just has to
Yes.
be right here, and that will
Mhm.
affect change.
Yeah. And when you do things like quantum healing, it's, by the way, really funny that you mentioned that. Is like literally the Giuliani story is literally the only story I had time to look at this morning. So it's really funny.
You're like,
It's like,
oh
again, more than
God.
coincidence. But when you go to the quantum healing, it's really those moments. It's really what you're going to look back on at the end of your life is, I reconciled with that person,
Right.
or I was true to myself in that moment. I said no. I
Right.
evolved. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm Amelia Earhart flying across the planet. It's
Right.
going to be like, I worked up. I'm a manager, and these people were having, and this guy was, macking on a lady, and I stopped that from happening. That's what you will remember. That's
Right.
what will be important. We don't have to be presidents to think that what we're doing is important.
Right. I absolutely agree with you. So are you ready for my exercise, Dave?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so I'm gonna more use you as the subject to
Okay.
let other people try this, and I'm gonna just show how I try it, and then, well, actually you can do it with me too. But so in one of our exercises for our class, and I say our, I'm talking about Debbie from Freebird Spirit. She does the Zoom classes with me, but we do a color exercise, and it's really to show you how to kind of get in touch with that knowing part of yourself, that part of yourself that just knows. And it uses color. We can all kind of relate to color. So And even if you're color blind, like you don't see, you can imagine color, you can still see what you see. That's okay. It doesn't matter. So with this exercise, you're going to look at the person and tune into them however you do. And when I say things like step into their energy or tune into them, people think, well, I don't know how to do that. No, you do it all the time. When you come across someone, you feel where they're at. It's just a natural thing we do as people. And so look at Dave, or you can look at me or look at Dave and kind of see, if you were going to ask yourself, around Dave, there's going to be some kind of energy field, okay? We all have it. So around Dave, there's an energy field. What color is it? Is it multitudes of color? If you can't, most people don't see it with their eyes, so that's okay. It's going to be in your mind's eye, and ask the question, and whatever the response that you get or whatever you see in your mind's eye right away, go with it. That's it. Go with it. Don't question yourself. Don't worry. Is it my imagination? Is it not? Don't worry about that. Just go with it. If you can't see it around him, imagine Dave falling back onto a giant cloud or onto a giant easy chair. And when he hits that easy chair, what color does it turn? Imagine it turns a color, and just go with it. Again, don't worry about, is this my imagination? People do that all the time, and don't, because spirit uses your imagination. So, and your guides right now, because you're doing this exercise, they know what's going on. They know what's happening. So they're going to help you. They want you to connect. I think that's always a big thing, that it's like, are my guides really there? Are they going to hear me? Are they? No, your guides always want to connect with you. So if you're trying, they'll be there. They will connect with you. So you see Dave fall back in that chair or that cloud, and just see what color it turns when he does that. Okay. So for me, and this is why we all don't have to get the same color, because this is the exercise. Okay. For me, Dave, I see actually two colors I don't usually see, which are brown and purple. So those are the two colors I'm getting for you. Now, everybody else we all got different colors, because then you're supposed to ask yourself, what does that color mean to me? What does brown mean to me? What does purple mean to me? Okay, because you're not thinking, what does brown mean in a book I read somewhere, or in color coding or whatever. What does it mean to me when I think of brown? This is also a great exercise to build your vocabulary with your guides, because then when you know, okay, brown or blue means to me water. And when I think of water, I think go with the flow, easygoing. I always think of water or the Mother Mary, for whatever reason. It doesn't matter why. Those are just the things that come to me. So your guides, now that you've made that connection yourself, your guides will use blue again and again and again to get you information. So when I have a reading, I know when I see blue, that either means they're a very go with the flow personality, or they have a deep religious conviction, or they were Catholic, something with Mother Mary. So that's how that works. So for me, purple and brown. Okay. It kind of is, I'm kind of thinking about it because they aren't colors I get all the time. I usually don't get those colors. So for you, I got purple and brown. So brown, to me, it connotes the earth. I also think of brown as being of excavating, turning things upside down and kind of like rolling the earth, that kind of thing. So I would think that I would either be talking to somebody who digs, or somebody who's very interested in what's beneath, what's under, not just interested in the surface, but they want to know what's underneath. I'm getting chills with that. It's kind of weird, but it's what it's underneath, and they dig for the answers. So that's what I think of when I think of brown. And then with purple, usually purple I think of as royalty or nobility, but that also connotes leadership. So I think of someone who is whether they see it in themselves or not, they do tend to lead others. So the other thing that I think of with leader and with purple and with nobility is that they kind of like things the way they like them. They not that they're not flexible, and I'm not saying you're not flexible, but they kind of once they have figured out this is the way I want it, that's the way it should be. Or that's the way I go, you know. They don't go searching for other people to get answers. They think, okay, that's the way it should be then. The other thing with that, though, with royalty, I always think of as they understand there is a higher power above them. Because royalty never is like, you know, they always think that the person above them is God. And so that's what I always think of too. I'm getting chills again with that you're very aware there's something up here. There's something beyond you. And so so that's how you do it. And it really is how you interpret the color. And that's what I love about this exercise, because you don't have to remember stuff. You don't have to go looking in books or anything. You just know that that's my intuition. That's what it means to me. And then your guides can use it again and again and again. So what color do you get from me, Dave?
Well,
no wrong answer.
First of all, I have to tell you how accurate you are.
Oh, okay.
Because this morning in Brown, when I was doing shamanic work this morning, and the shamanic work was totally based on the idea of the ley lines. You know, they believe that there are lines under the earth, kind of energies
right.
to be prepared. And so I was
I get chills with that.
I was doing a journey with my brilliant assistant, Jacinta, and she and I were both going down to say, like, how can I proceed to do these videos that involve literally going into the earth and sort of repairing and fixing these lines? So you're pretty accurate there. I don't think we can talk about the purple. I think it's pretty obvious that, you know, that's my bag. And as you can see, I really like things to be in a particular order.
Yep,
you can look at my house.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
My partner will be, you know, will watch me like, nope, that's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be there. That's really, I'm really interested in that kind of aesthetics really are important to me. So let me think, let me go into, wow, you know, I'm getting really cool. I mean, it's not just that I'm getting colors, I'm almost getting like vibrating colors. It's almost like a little bit of confetti, but the bright, I get like first of all, I get a very, I'm going to say that center is like white. It's just pure white. And then the edges have like these golden confetti like colors, and they're not just gold, but like shimmery gold. So again, in like little blocks and little boxes, like shimmery, again, like confetti. So, you know, when I think of white, right now, I just think of a pure person. I would just say, you know, and this is something I know your viewers know, is just Kim as a pure person. She is exactly the person that she appears to be. And which is just, it's just, I can't say any more than that. It's just, you're a beautiful person, Kim, and you're true. And you can absolutely trust Kim. And then at the gold edges, it just makes me think of somebody honestly sharing the light. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're like radiant. It's not just that you're this, you know, beautiful person. You know, you're, you know, spreading, you're sharing that, and these little, you know, gold nuggets that you share with people. I've obviously never done this before, but like, I can't help but see this color and see your face smiling. And I just feel very comforted by it.
So thank you. You're exactly right. That's all me. You can see how, because for me, white, but it's similar. But a little bit different. I do think of more like spirituality and stuff. But that's the thing, though. You're interpreting it, and it's what it means to you. And it's also interesting because it usually gives you the information you need to know. So if like if I was working with you and you got that, it would tell you that, oh, this person's honest, or this person has pure intentions, you know, so you can use it. You really can. So, yeah, but that's just one of the exercises that we do. And it's so fun just to kind of see the light bulb go on with people. And I'm sure you've had this experience too with teaching. I
Mm,
can do this. I can do this.
yeah.
It's almost like a realization, like I really can do this. There's something to this. Um,
Mhm.
because once you break open that that hesitancy, or that that doubt, once you break that open, you just go. I mean, honestly, it really is the beginning of people
Mhm.
really figuring out how far their potential can go. And usually it's infinite. We can go as far as we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great exercise. And
Thank
yours
you.
was so much faster than mine. I think that's what but
I'm like rushing through.
but that's just something you can use every day. You're going to go to the auto
Absolutely.
mechanic and be like, what color is that guy? Can I trust
Yeah,
him to work my
exactly.
car?
Exactly.
It's
And
just,
it's
yeah.
nice because it's for those people too that maybe they don't have, because you have such a, I had to ask you because you have such a great sense of visual, being able to see the visuals. But even if you don't, you can still just go with your gut. You can feel a color, you can feel
Mhm,
blue, you can feel
mhm,
red, you can feel those colors, because whatever they connote for you, that's how they're going to feel. I think of red as being kind of, I think of like anger or passion, one or the, those two extremes, but still red.
mhm.
Those might come up as feelings. So if you're more of an empath, you can feel color. And then
Right.
what does it mean to you? What does that mean to you? Dive
I
deeper
think
into it.
I think it's particularly interesting that it is, I mean, we have the answers. It's not in a book, it's not in a guru. And I really appreciate what you're showing people is that, for a Chinese person, red means good luck.
Right.
In China,
Absolutely.
you don't wear a white wedding dress, you wear a red wedding dress in China. It's good luck. So it really is about you and your interpretation of what blue means, right?
Exactly.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Exactly. Thank you. Well, so Dave, tell people, I will tell people, but you tell people where they can find you, what they can, if they can, how they go about kind of working with you. Do they make an
Mhm.
appointment? What do they do?
Well, you just go to my website, which is Moonride, and it's moonride.com.au because I do live in
Oh, right,
Australia.
because you're in
Thank
Australia.
you
Okay.
there.
Yes. Don't forget the
um,
AU.
yeah, and don't forget that I live in a completely different time zone. So sometimes people will send me stuff at 3 o'clock in the morning and wonder why I haven't responded.
Yes.
It'll take me a while
Yeah.
to respond sometimes, also because of the number of emails I get. But if you go to the website, there are a bunch of different things. You can just have your regular consultations. Those are available. But there's also shamanic work. I'm getting a lot of requests for shamanic journeys, which I do as well. And that's just a one-on-one. We sit in I'll show you how to do a shamanic journey and we'll actually go on one. And if you want to do more of the, more of the, it's not exactly quantum healing because I cannot do that online,
Right.
but it is my own version of it. I think I just put it down as hypnosis healing or something like that. One thing just to note about the hypnosis healing is that it takes a long time. It's 3.5 hours.
Oh,
So it is
wow.
at a higher price just
Right.
because I can only do one a day and there are some costs.
I was going
But
to
yeah,
say that's it. Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
Wow.
at some point, I'm going to do something, I think, where there are classes, where there are groups of people together, sort of like what you are doing. I haven't put that
Mm-hmm.
together entirely yet, but I would also just recommend, anybody, if you are in a place, where you are in proximity to somebody who does quantum healing and it's safe for you to go see them face to face,
Mm-hmm.
by all means, I would absolutely check out all those people because you want to make sure that that's the quantum healer for you, just like as
Right.
any other field. There may be people who, you just don't particularly drive with. So
Right.
I would definitely look at my website if you're thinking me and be like, well, is this guy okay? And I would also recommend that anybody go check it out. And I would also really recommend that people look at what Dolores Cannon did. She is a very, very intriguing person. So as are you, Kim.
Absolutely.
Compliment.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
she's a character too. And I love Dolores Cannon because, and you can find like her talks and her lectures on YouTube. And she is so plain speaking. She says things exact, you can really, and very complex actually
Right.
things, but she puts it in a way you can understand, which I love.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
Dolores Cannon was, maybe a good example of, becoming friends with your anger, because apparently she would have people kind of come up to her and they'd be sort of the wacky people and they'd start talking to her and they'd say, yeah, well, what about, putting me under and having me do the quantum healing? And she'd go, there is no way I'm going to do that for you. Straight up say no. Just like, you do want to be somewhat, you have to be guarded in your work in some senses. You have to be careful. So she's really straightforward. You're a very earthy person. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She's amazing. And so the classes I do with Debbie, those are going to be in the spring. So if anybody's interested in those will be in the spring, and I'll announce them on my channel and whatever. In the meantime, my recorded classes are on my website. If you don't get them, because they're little YouTube videos that will come to you. If you don't get them within 24 hours, let me know. Just send me an email at intuitiview@gmail.com and say, I ordered them yesterday, I haven't gotten them yet. I will send them right to you. But every once in a while, Dave, for whatever reason, I won't get a note. So usually I get a notification if somebody gets the classes and then I send them on. Sometimes I don't get the notification, or people will put in, misspell their email, or, it can be a lot of little things, but every once in a while I'll have somebody who's like, I ordered them 6 months ago and I never got them. Like, tell me. So
Okay,
if you don't get them within 24 hours, let me know.
Yeah. I will take those classes. I would be very interested in those videos.
I like them. I liked doing them, but I like them for people who are just beginning, because it goes from the very, very beginning and goes straight through. And by then you should be pretty comfortable at least doing some reading and particularly getting your own answers, because I think that's the big thing. A lot of people take our classes, Debbie and mine, for just because they don't want to have to run to a psychic for every single question. They want to maybe, I usually talk to someone maybe once a year just to get validation on certain things, or just to check in. It's almost like a tune-up in a way. Okay, I'm still figuring this stuff out. But yeah, they're I think it's I think it's a great way to find your own answers, not have to run to somebody every time you have a little thing come up.
Yeah, and I have to say, I love Debbie.
Yes,
she's just as awesome. I'm really very fond of her, and I love her work.
And she's she's a psychiatrist, but she used to work in I think the emergency room in LA, I want to say. If you can imagine the work that she's done. She is the patience of a saint. She's a wonderful, wonderful person to work with. So just like, you with Lena, it's like Debbie and I we just clicked. There was something there. We just clicked. And I was going to ask you, speaking of like ley lines or whatever, why do you have so many wonderful readers in Australia? Because you guys have some excellent ones.
We do. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that, but yeah, there are some really good ones. And I wonder, I don't know. I was told even before I saw a shaman I was working with, even before I came here, and she's like, Dave, there is something really important there for you.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, oh yeah. And I tell you, in the journey, I saw Lena's face.
Oh, really?
I was like, there's a lady, and it literally came, there's a lady from Queensland.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
And so I don't know. I think right now I get emails sometimes from people like a lady named Etta just sent me a message. Dave, the Uluru's calling me. And Uluru is a place where I went, this mountain. It's a very magical Aboriginal place. Oh. And I think that is part of it. I think that there is still this sort of magic under the earth that's happening it's a little bit of a, maybe even a less known place. I'll
Mhm.
tell you, it was easier for me to do this work here because in the United States, I was so caught up in this political, social, I was also starving,
Right,
so I
right,
was so caught up in just trying to survive that
right,
I never had the space to do this work.
right.
So that's a good question.
You
I think,
guys do though. You guys have some excellent. I follow Ellie too. Ellie Dreams Down Under. She's
Hmm,
excellent. She's a tarot
okay,
reader.
I'll have to check her
Fantastic,
out.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'll have to. I would love to go to Australia someday. If this, if we can get to traveling, I feel like the spring is going to be kind of a turning point for COVID. Do you feel like that,
I'm well,
or
I'm a little
some
bit
kind of
biased.
turning point? I don't know.
I'm a little bit biased because I set up a trip in spring. So
Okay.
I,
Yes, it
I'm
is.
hoping on hopes and dreams, but I felt like there were trips we planned before then that we canceled.
Oh,
So
mhm.
I feel like I'm being led to do that. And I've done a bunch of readings on it. So I feel like March is going to really start to open
Yeah,
up. That's just my gut feeling.
yeah. I got the same thing. I got about March, April. So either,
Okay.
either or, but I think you're right. And I think we're gonna see, and it could just be like great medications start coming out and great, just the medical, because they're doing so much all the time that it could just be things just start to kind of flow in that area. Um,
Well,
yeah.
New Zealand, for example, is opening up.
Mhm.
They've been like, okay, come on in. And I mean, Australia has a 93, maybe more since I last looked, percentage of people who have gotten the vaccine.
Oh my
So it's
gosh, I
such
can't
a
even
large,
imagine how great that
I
would be.
know.
That's
It
amazing.
was, yeah, it's such a large, no, we do take, even now, we still take plenty of precautions. You mask any indoor space. But at this point, they're like, hey, 92%, we're pretty much over the margin
Yeah, that's amazing.
where, we're hoping that'll work out. And they have opened up a good deal in
Uh-huh,
Australia. And
uh-huh.
it has had there have been a slight increase. But do you know how many people have died of COVID in Australia? Like a few hundred. And I'm sorry right now, I can't remember whether it's less than 500 or less than 5,000, but it's a minuscule compared to the United States.
Well, we have a
It's
whole section of our government right now who really does not value human life. The the conclusion I've come to is they just don't have that same value of every human life,
yes.
like the other party does, where
Uh,
every life is valuable. They just don't see it that way. So
it is
that's,
it is truly the disappearance of empathy.
it really
Uh,
is.
and
Yeah.
when I was just reading something about somebody who'd been to the Nuremberg trials and interviewed all of the Nazis. And they said the one, they didn't have class in common, education in common, they had no personality traits in common, except a lack of empathy.
Mm.
And I think that's what we're all confronting here is, the sadness of these people who've lost the empathy. Maybe we could put it on a fine note and say it also has had the reverse. People are
Right.
showing great empathy in
Right.
contrast, and maybe contrast is what we needed to show that empathy.
Yeah, yeah. Even showing people what it looks like to have no empathy, what it really
Yes.
looks like, and what it does to a society. Even that
Mhm.
lesson alone, I think, has shifted. Even people that are tended to be more pessimistic or a little more unfeeling have moved them over because it's not a place you want to live. It's not a place you want to be.
Mhm.
In a place with
Mhm.
no empathy, it
Yes.
really it deteriorates things pretty quickly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, on that cheery note, have empathy.
I have empathy.
Well, thank you, Dave, so much. It's been so fun talking to you. I'm so glad we persisted and we got together.
It's always great, Kim. It's always great when I'm
Oh,
talking to you.
thank you so much. All right, intuitive viewers, have a good one. We will see you next time. Bye.
Peace to everyone.